Hello, Ms. Amore. Thank you for letting me interview you regarding Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. The purpose of this interview is for you to demonstrate your understanding of the theory and how the theory applies to you and students you currently teach or plan to teach. Question 1. Imagine I have never heard of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. Briefly explain salient features of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. What is the source of this information?
Okay. So my name is Holly Amore. Today's date is October 3rd, 2019. Just a brief explanation of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development is that there's 8 stages of development that a person goes through from birth till the end of their lifetime. The stages are sequential and involve achieving a specific virtue or ability before moving on to the next phase. So Erickson's thoughts were that you had to be successful in one stage in order to move on, but that you could go back and be successful to achieve the stage. The gained virtues will help you be individually successful, but also successful in society. There's 8 stages. They go from 0 to 65 years old. The first one is mistrust versus trust. The virtue is hope. The second one is autonomy versus shame. The virtue is will. The third one is initiative versus guilt. The virtue is purpose, 3 to 5 years old. Industry versus inferiority. The virtue is competency, 5 to 12 years old. Identity versus role confusion. The virtue is fidelity, 12 to 18 years old. Intimacy versus isolation. The virtue is love, 18 to 40 years old. The 7th stage is generativity versus stagnation. The virtue is care, 40 to 65 years old. The 8th stage is ego identity versus despair. The virtue is wisdom, and that's 65 plus years old. So I'm getting this information from an article written by Saul McLeod on Erickson's 8 stages of psychosocial development.
Question 2. At what stage of development do you see yourself now? Why do you think so?
So I would be in my 6th stage of development, and that's intimacy versus isolation. I'm 31 years old, so I'm pretty much right in the middle of that age. It's hard to argue that I'm not in this stage because I am settling down and getting married this summer. Over the past 10 years, I don't think it's been intentional, but love has been kind of my journey. You're kind of trying things out. And I just purchased a home, so I guess my main goal is creating a safe and secure, stable environment.
Question 3. Explain how being at this stage of development, this may influence your behavior and outlook in your classroom. On what do you base this explanation?
So I believe that the stage of development that I'm in affects my views of the classroom because just like my personal life, I'm trying to make sure it feels like a safe and stable environment. I have a need to, I feel like, share my gained virtue of love with my students in a maternal and nurturing way, and I believe this, or I can kind of evaluate my stage based off of the article written by McLeod.
Question 4. Identify at what level your students are likely to be at in Erickson stages.
Okay, so my students are in stage 5. They're 13 to 15 years old. And that would be, you guys are in identity versus role confusion. So basically everybody is just kind of trying to find themselves. Everybody's experimenting with their beliefs, values, and goals. People are focused on the future, on what they want to be when they grow up, and then also kind of your own sexuality.
Question 5. Explain how being at this stage of development, this may influence their behavior and outlook in your classroom. On what do you base this explanation?
So the stage of development is internally and externally extremely distracting for a student. So I think that they're already coming to school battling being present. I think they feel uncomfortable in their own skin. I think they are self-conscious, emotional. I think every day is kind of a challenge. They're almost wired to be rebellious, and I also base this on my day-to-day observations, but also followed up with McLeod's explanation.
Question 6. What might be some disconnects between you and your students, keeping the differences in the 2 stages in mind?
So basically, it's adolescence versus adulthood. So I think my students are kind of in limbo right now, and I'm in a stable type of place in my life, so I'm trying to create stability, and my students are trying to go off on their own and find themselves. And I think they're just really trying to avoid adults and adult figures right now because it's just not where their interest lies.
Question 7. Any final comments?
Just that I think I believe in this theory just because it seems so factual when I've been reading over it, and especially after evaluating my own stage and my student stage. It's definitely easy to see, and it just gives me a little bit more insight and how to be patient with my adolescent students.